Hey, what's up everybody? This is Chris with Digital REM, and in this video I'm going to share with you my Streamlabs OBS settings. I called this video Streamlabs OBS settings for beginners, so you clicked here for a reason. But pretty much I'm going to try to keep it simple. I'm just going to share my settings. If you're new to Streamlabs OBS, I'm running on a laptop PC, Dell XPS to be exact, with an NVIDIA graphics card. So with that in mind, I'm trying to point out the type of hardware that I'm using that has low CPU usage. So this is not a gaming PC, not anything that's super beefy or anything like that. Something that you probably have at home, or even even less. This is something that you can pretty much out of the box pretty much start streaming from the get-go. So we're just gonna hop right into it. Alright, so right here you can see that I'm sharing my Streamlabs OBS, and this is what the Streamlabs OBS studio looks like. It's not this in particular. What that was, if you click your start menu and you actually type in task manager, this is your task manager. So it's showing you your CPU usage, how your CPU is acting, how much memory is using when you're doing whatever you're doing on it. So with that being said, we're going to use this task manager to gauge or fine-tune our settings for our Streamlabs OBS. So let's just go ahead and go to our settings. So here's our settings. The settings can be found down by this little gear down at the bottom. But here are our settings, and pretty much we're just going to go straight down the line of settings here, and you can see how I have my settings, and you can probably mimic them for your settings, and then use the task manager to fine-tune them for your particular machine. So we're going to start with general here. General, pretty much general. General, confirm streams. These are the settings that I chose. Confirm stream title and game before going live. I definitely want to do that. I'm assuming that it's going to give me a little dialog box like, you want to go live? Click here, and then it'll make sure that I know I'm going live before the camera starts and I realize I'm live, and I could be live and walking around looking crazy. So I definitely want that on, and this is pretty much the same thing. Show a confirmation dialog that you're starting a stream or starting a live. So I went ahead and toggled that on, and you can read through all of these, and it'll vary between the user. Is how you're using your Streamlabs OBS. So automatically record when streaming, I personally definitely want to do that, because I want to be able to upload this to different platforms to share with my community and my followers. So I definitely want to automatically record a file out every time I stream, or every time I go live, or every time I record. Source alignment snapping, I didn't change any settings here, so you can leave the settings as they are, because I'm not sure exactly what that is. Stream, you want to definitely connect your stream to your Streamlabs OBS, so when you go live, it broadcasts out to your platform, so exactly, everybody that's following you knows exactly where to follow you or know where to find you, and you're getting your live out there for the world to see. Output. Now this is one of the most important parts of the whole thing, and this is one of the reasons I made this video. The main reason I made this video, because this is where the fine tuning comes into play. So we're going to start with streaming here. So streaming, you have all of these different options here, but we're going to start with streaming, and then I left the audio track set to 2, so it's going to give me 2 audio tracks in the file. The encoder being how the file is compiled or put together. So the encoder, I put it at hardware QSB. There are other options depending on your graphics card, but the main thing I want you to consider always is have this task manager open and toggle through your different options. Because again, I'm running an NVIDIA graphics card, and there's an option like NSAV or something like that. That's supposedly geared for the NVIDIA graphics card, but I cannot utilize that, and it doesn't allow my PC to utilize that properly, and my CPU just spikes. So I have to use a different one. So again, it's your machine. It varies by machine, but I'm really making this video to show you that you use your task manager in comparison with your settings. Make a video, shoot it, watch, look at your settings, and then see if it you lose frames or whatnot, and then kind of tweak it from there, like a race car or something. Tweak your gears until you get it to its top performance. If we have any racers out there. So the target, or I'm skipping around. So enforce streaming service encoder settings. Not sure exactly what that means, but I toggled it on because I'm hoping this is going to, whatever settings I'm setting for the stream, I want to also set for my recording as well. The target usage, I put balanced. Again, they have like all these other different options that it's like it shows options that are geared towards speed, or if it's very fast or fast, or if it's more quality or less quality. And I chose something balanced, where I was like, computer, you figure it out. That's what you're here for. You do the calculations, figure out what's the best for me, because I want quality and I want speed. So I can't choose, so I chose balance. The profile, I set the high. The keyframes, I set the 3. I think that was the default. Async depth is 4. That was definitely a default. Rate control. Now this is the most important part. The rate control is your bit rate. Your bit rate being how the calculation it takes per frame. If you know what a frame is you put a lot of images together, and a sequence of images make a movie. So each frame takes a certain amount of calculations to make a movie. The higher the bit rate, the more calculations that are put into that one frame, so it can get a crisper image, better quality colors, better contrast, dynamic contrast, and things like that. So your higher your bit rate, the better your image is going to be. It's not necessarily always like if it's scaled to 4K or if it's scaled to 2K. It's usually off the bit rate. So your bit rate is going to give you the better quality. So this is where you're getting down and actually crank, like again the car analogy, cranking the wrench to tune it exactly to where your CPU, GPU doesn't spike out. So with that being said, as you see, my GPU, my internal GPU, is at 100% capacity. It's spiked out all the way. But that was the best setting that I had available for this laptop, with keeping in mind that my GPU, number one, my NVIDIA graphics card is using 0%. So my internal graphics card is using all the 100%, but my actual GPU is using 0%. So that leaves all of the GPU from the NVIDIA graphics card to be used for a game, or if you're gaming, for gaming, or for my reasoning, for Photoshop, for Illustrator, for Blender, for things that other software packages that can use that resource, that graphics card resource as a resource. The CPU usage is at 50%, so that's around where I would expect it to be. So that's kind of why I landed at these settings. The CBR is the constant bit rate, and we have they have other options like the variable bit rate, VBR, and other options like that. But I kept a constant bit rate because I wanted to always, personal feeling, I always want to know how much CPU usage, or have a better gauge of how much CPU usage is being kicked out, not dependent upon the software I'm using or anything like that. So I want to kind of have my hands on the levers when it comes to the bit rate. So I set the bit rate at, initially set my bit rate at, it came default at 2500, but then I boosted it up to 12,000, and then I was getting lost frames, so I went down to 8,000, still lost frames, went down to 5,000, was getting less lost frames, but I just figured I'd go back to default and try it out. Default worked. I looked at the video after I did a recording, saw the quality of the video. It really didn't bother me for the quality for now, just to get it out the door. So I left it at default 2500, and you can leave yours at default 2500, and you still have pretty much the same quality video as you see here, depending on your camera as well. Oh, let me not jump too far too soon. So then you want to go to recording. So your recording, you basically, I set mine to standard, but then you want to go to hit browse here, recording, for your recording path, hit browse and select where you want your file to be saved to when you're done recording. So wherever you set is that's where your file is going to be saved. You have your recording format. Now there are like a handful of formats, like 4 or 5 different formats. I chose MP4 because MP4 personally I feel is more of a universal format, like an MOV. MOV tends to usually be to save larger files, so MP4 usually saves smaller file, has a smaller file size, but not a loss of quality. So I saved it as MP4. There is no I don't know if there were AVI available, but I wouldn't save as AVI either because I have no reason to save for any kind of transparency or anything. So MP4 just, I feel, just gave me the best option for streaming or for saving a video and not taking up too much disk space on my hard drive. Audio track, you can set your tracks. We're not going to get into that right now, but I just went ahead and set it to 1 track. So the 1 track will be for my microphone and for my computer audio. Any audio that comes out, it comes out as 1 track. I didn't do a rescale output or anything like that, so we're going to just skip ahead. On the audio, I did at a 44.1 kilohertz and set my channel to stereo. This is personal preference. I did these settings for the simple reason going into my other productions, when I'm doing audio production or anything else, is pretty much the stereo channel format. So I just wanted to keep it consistent with my other production, any other production I have as far as video editing or audio editing. So I just wanted to keep it consistent. So that's what I did. Kept it as stereo. Audio devices, you can pretty much hit the toggle and figure out which one is yours, or you can just hit set it to default. I don't know if I can save anything. Oh, there we go. So you can just change it and just you can select it how you would select yours. That's in the, I don't think that you'll get too much value by me sharing on that end. As far as video, so my monitor on my laptop puts out a 4K image, but the output I set is at 1920 by 1080. Why might you ask that I put it out at 1920 by 1080? Well, it's a couple of different reasons. So the main reason is when I tried to do it at 4K, I was getting a lot of drop frames, a lot of lag. It wasn't streaming properly, so I had to take it down to 2K. Tried it at 2K, still getting a lot of drop frames, a lot of lag. So I took it down to regular HD, and it's a lot better. Now, with that being said, even if I were to have a 4K resolution or 4K image resolution, if I don't have the bit rate, like we talked before, the bit rate at a higher bit rate, you know, it's a give and take, you know. So if your bit rate isn't high, you're still going to have a grainy big image, but you can also do a higher bit rate at a smaller resolution, if that makes sense, and you'll have a higher quality image. But it all, again, depends on your machine. If you have a maxed out machine, more than likely you can go 4K at the one of the highest bit rates. Probably if you were at constant bit rate, probably at like a 20,000-30,000 bit rate. I don't think that's necessary, but you might. So The downscale filter, I put it a bilinear just because it said fastest. I'm not sure exactly what's the best, but I had it at bilinear. I have it at bilinear. I tried the one that was at a 32-bit. It was like Luncos or something like that. That didn't work out for me. I had a lot of drop frames, so I just went ahead and put it back at a bilinear. Frames per second type, I put it at frames per second, and 30 frames per second, mainly for the reason of when I'm taking this into an editing software or compositing software or anything else. I usually work at 30 frames per second. My animations are at 30 frames per second, so everything will be consistent across the board when I'm taking this video or this video, when I'm taking a video like this into something else where I want to probably tweak it or add something to it. All of my frame rates will match and everything will be perfect, perfectly matched. As simple as that. It's not really rocket science to me, but hopefully I'm helping somebody out with this. So 30 frames per second is a good rule of thumb. Plus is easy math instead of like 24 frames per second or 48 frames per second. I'm not streaming games, so 60 frames per second I don't feel is necessary, and I'm not running like a real-time game simulation, so 60 frames per second might not be necessary. But for recording video just to play back or upload to somewhere else, 30 frames per second should do you right. Hotkeys, I didn't do anything for the hotkeys. I actually have a Stream Deck here that I purchased that I'll go over in another video. Advanced, again, going back to one of the main points, going back to my current production with all the other stuff. I set my color format to RGB instead of the NV12. RGB being when I'm working in Photoshop, when I'm working in Illustrator, when I'm working in video editing or anything else, I'm usually working in an RGB format, color format, so it will match consistently throughout different platforms. So I kept that the same as RGB, so meaning red, green, and blue color format. The color space is 601. I had no changes there. Color range is the partial. Audio still set the default. Recording. So the recording, you can set your file name formatting. So when it saves your file, it'll save as the name, you know, how you want it to be named. It'll save it like that there or here. You can kind of set that up and it'll save it where you have your destination to how you have it set up. So, and then I also clicked on the overwrite if file exists. So if a file exists, it'll just overwrite, so I don't pretty much take up disk space by having multiple video clips if I'm, you know, struggling through a video. So, and have multiple takes, it'll be one consistent take. Game overlay, I went ahead and added this. I'm not sure exactly what this does, but after reading the description, it seems like something that I would want, definitely like a chat feature up above or something like that to kind of give me the type of features I'm looking for, and kind of where I don't miss out on the screen space, but it'll have that transparency with the chat above me. That's what I'm hoping this does. Scene collection, I don't think we need that right now for beginners. Notifications, I still have to learn about the notifications, which it could be very helpful. I definitely put the detect drop frames on there. That helped me with this whole process of tweaking. So I know when I'm dropping frames, I pretty much know through a whole little red icon or a red, you know, I don't know, a pop-up would pop up. I don't know why I'm having a brain fart right now. It's been a long day. It's really been a long day. But anyway, so appearance, this is a user preference here. I chose night. You can choose day. I chose night because, again, the white of the text pops out to me a little harder, so I chose white instead of having a blown out screen with black text. I'd rather have a dark screen with bright white text, but that's a personal preference. and you can change it to your own personal preference. Remote control, I didn't do anything with this. I don't know much about it, but if I were to guess, is you can take your device and scan the QR code and use that device to control your Streamlabs OBS, which I haven't had the opportunity to do, but I see it will be useful. So pretty much I've covered all of the different setting options here, but again, I just want to emphasize the most important that I feel are the most important for tuning your actual PC, your actual laptop, your actual desktop to perform at its highest capacity without bogging down your system. So output is definitely very important. Your output settings, you know, and then you go into your rate control, your rate being the quality. So the higher your rate, your higher bit rate, the better. You have definitely different types of rate options. So you can do a variable bit rate, you can do a constant bit rate. You have these options. If you want to learn more, look them up, understand the difference between them. But I have a constant bit rate at 2500. It's pretty much going to always give me the same bit rate frame for frame, so there will be no fluctuation in the CPU usage from my understanding. But that's one of the most important parts. Recording your file destination, you definitely want to make sure your file is saved to the right destination. What else? Audio, make sure you're set to stereo. I mean, you can set, again, all of these you can set how you want to, but I personally think that these are important. Set this to stereo. In your video format, your output scale is definitely going to affect your performance of your computer. So you want to try to get the most out of it, but you don't want to overload your computer, because you are going to more than likely run something else in the background, unless you're streaming a game or a monitor or something else. If you're doing something like that, you probably can run it pretty high. So that's that. But this is also very important at 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. I wouldn't necessarily choose 48 frames per second or anything like that if you're going to later on edit it or anything like that. And I believe, in advanced, the RGB, set your RGB color format to RGB, and I believe that is the main thing I wanted to cover in this video. So again, let me just hop back to the main screen. So with that being said, I hope you like this video. My voice is cracking. I've been talking all day, but I hope you like this video. I hope it was helpful to you. Again, this is Streamlabs OBS settings for beginners. These are the settings that pretty much out of the box that I went with, and as I go further down the road, I will be able to tweak these settings. But the key to tweaking your settings is going to your task manager and then pretty much trying it out, seeing how your computer actually reacts to your settings that you set. And the more you know, the more videos you make, the more content you create using Streamlabs OBS and graphics that you do using Streamlabs OBS, your task manager will show you how your CPU or GPU is reacting to that. So again, it's a fine dance between quality of your video that you're streaming or recording and your CPU GPU usage that's allowing it not to lag and, you know, still be smooth, the actual frames to be smooth. So I hope this video was helpful to you. Once again, I thank you for joining me. Please subscribe, like this video, and all of the above. Hope to see you later in a later video when I cover other things that involve Streamlabs OBS and other cool content that I have coming out. So definitely subscribe, stay up to date, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.